Thank you everyone for staying here at this time. And I'll try to be attractive and efficient. And due to some company policy, some real data and examples and I de-identified, but I think this presentation can still review the thought process about optimization presented here. So I'll talk about the supply chain optimization with some Bayesian intelligence. And then my background is statistics and operations research. So really this is focusing on the optimization side, but I borrowed the Bayesian idea. And as I present, you'll see. So let's talk about some supply chain challenges today. I worked for Lowe's for 6 years, and then through many projects, and then as I observed, there are several supply chain challenges, very representative. One is like inventory optimization under uncertainty, uh, because as a company highly rely on the supply chain, actually you need to identify the reorder points or safety stock level, and then it is actually very difficult because the demand and lead time are kind of stochastic, and sometimes you cannot find a clear pattern about about them, especially the lead time. Sometimes you see some outliers, and it turns out it's not an outlier but a pattern. And also sometimes, like vice versa, it might be you think it's a pattern but it's an outlier. So you cannot really model them very well. So assuming a fixed distribution or relationship, actually it fail very often. So that's one part related to the inventory side. The other side is like demand forecasting. We need to forecast the demand. That's a time series forecast. And uh, usually we use machine learning models and some models like ARIMA and RSTM, also the recently developed Profit. Those models can have many hyperparameters. Also, you do some ensembling, then it will be actually more parameters. And when you do some uh, parameter tuning, it can be very slow, and depending on the problem, it can be computational expensive. The third example is like the transportation, network design and routing. Uh, because we also deliver to customer, so there's some like routing problem. And when you solve those routing problem, it's kind of a combinatorial optimization, because it's kind of you need to decide what to put on the truck, and then to in what route you need to go to deliver to customer. So this is kind of uh, NP hard, very computational heavily problem. So even you do some simulation or some digital twins to reflect the real route, it's also very costly. And the last example I share is some like supplier portfolio optimization. Is in the uh, pros, uh, procurement process. So you need to balance some cost and reliability, and also some risk between multiple suppliers. And also this is multi-objective. You are not only considering one part, but several other parts, and it involves uncertainty. So some uncertainties is like the first inventory optimization case. It has nonlinear interactions, so it's really hard to model them or solve them very efficiently. So as you see, like not only supply chain, but also like many fields, as I listen through the whole day, like there's like expensive functions are anywhere. So you need to find a way to solve them or model them or optimize them efficiently. We will focus on a simulation optimization mechanism where we have inventory control variables. It can be your safety stock or some base inventory, or just some settings that you can set so to control your inventory position. when the on-hand quantity drop below that quantity, it will trigger an order to move your on-hand inventory up. And then as sales process continues, it will continue let your inventory down and try to hit that threshold and trigger a replenishment again. So this is kind of a problem, and we have like complex measurement KPIs. So it can involve some like revenue, some inventory costs, also some service level. And the relation between them is also not straightforward. It's not kind of linear, but some different business partners may have different like objectives to choose. So sometimes the relationship is not very straightforward. Also, the evaluation process is expensive. You don't want to just set a setting and test directly at your store because it can have real impact. You don't want to be risky to test the thing without enough confidence. So the evaluation process can be expensive as well. So the question we ask is how to improve the inventory efficiency here. So basically, you can think of it as a trade-off between the inventory cost and some margin or revenue gain. Because if your inventory is high, then your inventory cost will be high, but it's less likely to miss any order, and vice versa. If it's opposite, your inventory cost will be low, but you have out of stock events, uh, more out of stock events than the prior case. So it's kind of a analogy to a famous like multi-armed bandit problem. You have zero money, and then you try to do some gambling, and then you see a bandit, and you can observe the return of each bandit and the risk. And the problem is like, how do you invest the money, and what bandit or what arm you want to invest? So the real thing is you need to try. So you don't need, because if you do nothing, then you cannot gain anything. So you need to attempt, you need to try. So don't be fear to try the thing. Uh, how what is our like trial process? How do we do experiments to optimize a black box function? It's like you have 3 points. Like each point can be the relationship between your control variable with some function that represents the inventory efficiency. What's the direct answer in people's head? Maybe you just use prior knowledge. You have the 3 data points. You see the third one is actually the highest. It has the highest value. You just choose this one. You don't do anything. You just rely on either you say it's prior experience or some empirical experience. So it's very cheap because you have those data at hand, but it's not scientific. But however, people still use them in several process. It's not every process is modernized, so people still use them in some situation. And secondly, you can do grid search, meaning through that search space, you can just evenly try different points and then with a fixed step size. In this way, it is guaranteed to have some convergence, but depending on the nature of the problem and the size, it can be really expensive. And based on that, there's some random search. In a random search, actually, it could be better than a grid search in many perspectives because there are some techniques to ensure that it can get some performance improvement, but still it can be expensive, especially if you're not lucky enough or the method kind of achieve a local minimization. So what else we can do? So we'll say that we just use that 3 points as a sample. Sometimes you want to guess the relationship. It can be whatever relationship you think in your mind. And then from those relationships, you try to build a surrogate model. You try to guess what the real relationship is. And the default choice in most situations is a Gaussian process. So for the Gaussian process, as long as you have several samples, you can just build a model determined by the mean and the covariance function. So there's not only one Gaussian process as an option. Sometimes people also use tree-based method, some random forest, also the BNN, Bayesian neural network, also some deep learning techniques. So there are different ways to build a surrogate model, but you try to build a surrogate model first to guess the real relationship. So from here, you transfer it to some distribution, and it's the dark blue is like 1 sigma, and the second is like a 2 sigma field. And once you have the surrogate model, what is the next point? You may think maybe this point is the best because it can achieve some possible maximum. So you might want to simulate or try this point to see if you really get this or some other value. There is 4 typical ways to choose those. One is the expected improvement way. It kind of find a balance between the variance and also the average. It's like a cautious investor. You try to find a place where your expected improvement is the best. And second is upper confidence bound, where you want to find opportunity where the upper confidence bound is the largest. Like here, you see this gives the upper bound, the largest upper bound. You choose to try x equals 8. Also, the probability of improvement. This is kind of a very even more rigorous or cautious, like scientific way. You just want to try the place where you think the probability of the improvement is largest. So you don't care about if the improvement itself is largest, but the probability is largest. And the fourth one is called Thomas sampling. This is kind of like a gambler way, and I have something to say about this. You kind of choose. Remember previously we have so many like curves. You kind of randomly choose a curve and then find the place where it represents the largest in that curve. So it doesn't have any like theoretical guarantee, but you just guess a curve first and try to optimize. It made me think of the email I received from Steven. So he is very kind to send us emails related to the parking lot and the space. And then I am doing some Thomas sampling. Actually, I didn't scan the whole email, but I see I just sampled a sentence. It said like it said some address like 740 North University Way, and then I skip the process. I save the time to, I don't read through all the procedure, and also I don't try to put it in some like a Apple map and transfer into Google Map. I just skip all the procedure. And then I take that address to put it on my phone. And unfortunately, I didn't get the maximum solution. I go to the same address at a nearby city. So now this city, there's a similar address in like Coral Spring, and then it's like 35 minutes away from me. So I kind of doing a random guess, and then unfortunately I didn't get a best solution. This is kind of Thomas sampling. You do some gambling, and then it can be fast in that iteration, but it's not guaranteed to be your ultimate best solution. That is exploration versus exploitation. So it try to, you can choose from those 4 measures or maybe other different measures to select the next point for you to try. So combining those process, it is actually the Bayesian optimization technique. You kind of choose some prior measurement and then compare a prior and a likelihood to get a posterior measurement, and then use that to define the next point according to some acquisition function and augment the data. And procedure 2 to 4 can be an iterative procedure until you get some theoretical guarantee or your budget is over. So you see there's many like similarities between the Bayesian optimization and Bayesian network. They both use the prior and the likelihood to get the posterior. The difference is that here it kind of try to do some optimization, like black box optimization, where you don't have closed form solution, or the closed form solution is expensive. This it also like one of the Chinese ancient philosopher also like metaphorically described a similar thing. It's like you have some methodology, and then that is like Bayesian optimization or Bayesian idea in our way, and then you combine the prior and and the likelihood to get the posterior, and the trade-off between that exploration and exploitation, and then you kind of get to the next point, and iteratively you can just travel through all the possibilities. For the real implementation, still this same method. This is the true optimal where we don't know. And then through these 3 points, the acquisition function thinks this will be the next function we want to try. So it's very close to the third point. So it kind of tried this, and then here, and then here, and then here, and here. So until you see it's closer and closer to this star. It totally takes 11 iterations. Actually, it takes more iterations in this case, but the solution is just near this point. So 11 iterations will effectively get you to the maximum in this case. And to make it complete, this is a like convergence comparison for this specific problem, and also it's not guaranteed that every problem is like this. But in this particular problem, for that particular setting, the Bayesian optimization reached the optimal in the least number of iterations. But it's tricky here because first, as I said, problems are different. For some problem, maybe the random search can give you the optimum. So you really need to test. And second, although number of iterations, the Bayesian optimization achieve the least in this case, but it doesn't mean it's the most efficient or it's the fastest, because per iteration, if you don't implement it correctly, it can be very expensive as well. So it's not only judged by number of iterations, but the total time. So there's some like optimization techniques to try to balance here. And also there are some other ways to do this black box optimization. Some like evolution algorithm can also be applicable. And then it's just we just need to do experiments to find out the best solution here. Some extensions, so this is kind of near the end, also the exciting part, when we really apply it to the simulation-based optimization in supply chain. So it can apply to noise systems, because in a simulation, in a supply chain simulation, sometimes one variable through the simulation, because simulation has randomness, it can give you multiple solutions in different rounds. The same solution, it gives you different values. So fortunately, the Bayesian optimization has the way to accommodate this. So here you see around this value, it actually don't think one iteration is confident enough. So it tries 3 different values and generates a band according to that x value. It is not saying that for this x, you only give one y. So it can accommodate to a noise system. Also, the noise level you can set through parameters if you know that if you know the variance or some noise level, you can set it in the algorithm. Also, you can apply some early stop criterion, because as I show in the dynamic example, I stop at the 11th iteration, because later I found that the solution will be around that x axis, x value, but it's not fixed there. So you can really set some threshold either through the control variable or through your objective function or some other ways to make it stop earlier. It can work well with constraint problem. Sometimes you not only have a objective, but you want to keep some you want to also accommodate some other relationship. For example, you optimize your margin, but you also want to keep the cost, something like that. So there's some techniques you can just make the constraint problem as unconstrained in some way by adding a penalty. So after doing that, it can be the new relationship can be identified from the Bayesian optimization, and also it can work well and show you if you have a feasible solution or infeasible. And basically, if it's infeasible, the objective value will be punished. It will be very very small at this point in a maximization problem. And fourth, the numerical optimization might be required to find the next sample, because after you get the surrogate modeling, after you get a distribution, even the distribution has a closed form, it's kind of hard to directly find the optimal solution. So you need to solve that maximization problem of the function in some numerical way. And here some first order or second order optimization will come, and this part actually decide if your whole process is fast or slow, or how efficient it is. Those are the extensions, and we apply this in a set of skill set. Skill is stock keeping unit, is one item, one star. We call it a skill. We apply it in a set of skill set. We see some positive results, but also we need to do some acceleration to implement in a large scale problem. So that's how the application really goes. And I think that's the end. Thank you. Any questions?